Let's head back out west to the Midwest, I should say, to Fort Worth, Texas for a Big 12 matchup, one of a kind, one that we are still getting used to. The UCF Knights go on the road to take on the TCU Horned Frogs. 7:30 kickoff on Fox, and UCF currently favored in this one by 2.5. And Brad, this spread has been wavering back and forth. I think I looked last time and TCU was favored by 0.5. So this one keeps going back and forth. I don't know which one it is exactly. I don't know if you have it pulled up, but they're playing at Almond G. Carter Stadium, like I mentioned, in Fort Worth, Texas, home of the TCU Horned Frogs. And this is a big game for both coaches. Sonny Dykes versus Gus Malzahn, both very experienced college football coaches in their own regard. But, Brad, this is their first game this season in the Big 12 for in-conference play without Texas and Oklahoma, and both are hoping to get back to the promised land. UCF for the first time, and obviously we saw TCU get there just a couple years ago. Give us your take on this game and who comes out on top in Texas.
Yeah, Nate, you brought up an interesting point. These are two coaches that are very experienced. They've been around the game a long time. We saw honestly, some really good moments for Gus Malzahn at Auburn. But then there were some, times it was not good. And of course, this final couple of years there, Auburn struggled. Meanwhile, Sonny Dykes, I believe now in his third season at TCU, of course, the first season they made the national championship and then took a big step back last year. So I would say two coaches that in no way am I suggesting that they're on the hot seat, but this is to start off the 2024 season. This is a critical game for them because they have an opportunity to really, really get Big 12 play going in the right direction with a win, or the loser here is going to have to start figuring some things out. So two coaches that are at an interesting crossroads. Want to start off with TCU, and looking at TCU, they're going to throw the ball around, and they're going to put up big numbers. Their quarterback Josh Hoover, 620 yards in 2 games, 4 touchdowns, no picks, and they have got a very impressive receiver in senior Savion Williams. This guy goes 6'5", 225. He's big. He's physical. A 50-50 ball is more like an 80-20 for him. I mean, he is just very, very good at those jump ball situations. And like I said, TCU, this is just a game where that they're going to come out and they're going to look to attack Nate. That opening game against Stanford, I'll be honest, I didn't watch the second half, but I was thinking, hey, Stanford's going to win the game, and then TCU really, really made a lot of plays there in the second half to end up getting a win. Nate, one of the things that has stood out to me is that TCU has done a good job getting after the quarterback. Several guys with a sack and a half, and they've done a good job just making an effort to put some pressure. Jumping over to UCF, with Gus Malzahn, they're running this spread offense, and they're going to be a run-first team. This blew my mind. As a team, 838 rushing yards in 2 games. I mean, that's crazy. I realize the competition has not been great, but that's unbelievable, Nate. And of course, we have talked about a lot here on Break the Huddle. We've talked about Toledo transfer Penny Boone. We thought he was going to kind of be the main man, and he's had a good season. But really for UCF, it's been about R.J. Harvey, 30 carries, 268 yards, and 6 touchdowns already on the year for him. But they've got a 4-headed monster. You got Harvey, you got Boone, Miles Montgomery. Their backup quarterback, Jakari Brown, has got almost 100 yards rushing, and then KJ Jefferson. So, Nate, this is going to be a run-first team. I'm interested to see, how KJ looks because, Nate, eventually in the Big 12, they're going to have to throw the football. So we both know that they're going to have to show that they can throw the football. But look, I still think with just their kind of unique offense, they're still going to be able to run the ball and run it well. Jumping over to UCF's defense, Nate, the big thing that stands out to me, I want to talk about TCU's passing game because looking at the reverse, UCF on the season, and granted it's only 2 games, 1 sack. So they have got to find a way with their front 4 and their front 7 to get some pressure. If they don't, Josh Hoover and Savion Williams is absolutely going to carve them up. So it's interesting, Nate, this line, UCF 2.5. I feel like TCU should be favored, but I'm taking the Golden Knights. I just think with their unique running game, with their ability just to throw a lot of different backs, at you, and KJ Jefferson just being a big physical presence, I think UCF's going to be able to wear down TCU. They're not going to want to, they're going to get tired in the second half. They're not going to want to tackle KJ and Penny Boone for 4 quarters. And I think UCF ends up with their running game having a big day. I think they win this one there in Fort Worth.
Yeah, Brad, you brought up some great points, and you mentioned transfer quarterback KJ Jefferson coming over from Arkansas. Look, this is the closest thing Gus Malzahn has had to Cam Newton in his college coaching career. They're going to rely on the run. Like you mentioned, they have R.J. Harvey, they got Penny Boone, they got KJ Jefferson, and they probably combined for – not only did they combine for 800 yards rushing, they probably combined for 800 pounds on the field at one time, if we're being honest with each other, if you were to get that split back formation. Nonetheless, it's going to be a tough game for both of these teams. I also want to mention, Josh Hoover, the quarterback for TCU. He's done a phenomenal job, 620 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 0 interception, young guy. A lot of guys will probably remember this name when I bring it up. Wide receiver JoJo Earl, former wide receiver at the University of Alabama. He's been slow start. They've kind of been easing him into the season. He's ready to go for this game. And you wonder, Brad, is that going to make a difference against this UCF defense? We know they're focused heavy on the run. They're going to look to keep TCU's offense off the field. And how do you do that? You run R.J. Harvey and Penny Boone and KJ Jefferson. Now, to that point, you mentioned they're going to have to throw it eventually. If it comes to the point where they stack the box, they need to force KJ to throw this ball. KJ is not the most accurate passer. We know he's a run-first quarterback, probably a first read and go. He's not going to go through his progressions. He's not going to look 3 or 4 down the field. He's going to look maybe 1, 2, and he's gone. They got to keep a spy on him, which is going to open up that secondary. It's going to force KJ to make some throws. They're going to take their chances if they're smart enough under Sonny Dykes. But in the end, I think that UCF prevails in this one. They're just so much more physical up front, not only in the run game, but just offense and defensive line. Give me UCF in a close one, 34-31 on the road to get their first Big 12 win of the season. Let us know in the comments who you believe will win this game out in Fort Worth.